Well, here we are again, breaking down another Logic session for the EP. This time it's Blister. It's a hot song, so there's only one logical place I could think to host this unpacking, and that was in literal hell. So, welcome to hell, and let's jump in. Okay, so same deal as last time. I'm gonna just sort of sequentially go through the song part by part, and then I'll just sort of unpack whatever seems to be interesting in the moment. This all started when Kendall sent me a voice memo of a drum idea he thought of just randomly one day at work. Here it is. Pretty easy to see how this eventually became Blister. I mean, the drum part is almost note for note that intro part. Now, I don't always work this way. It's not always easy for me to like hear a song when I just hear like a naked drum part. Usually I work the other way around, but in this particular instance, I just threw it into Logic, and I want to say what I did was I threw like a bit crusher on it. The bit crusher grabbed a hold of those toms that he's playing, and it like summed them up to a note that then like sort of detuned as it rode down. And I heard the way those toms were detuning, and I was like, that's kind of like a nasty guitar sound almost. And so that's where the riff for Blister came from. It's just me mimicking the sound of those decaying toms, but just really, really nasty and distorted. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's sort of an unusual way to write a song for me, but honestly, once that main riff fell into place, the rest of the song came out in like a day, maybe two, which is really unusual for me. I'm pretty indecisive when I'm writing a lot of the time. So for a song to sort of just like almost write itself was such a nice change of pace. All right, so let's start listening. As I said, the drum part is almost exactly like the idea that Kendall originally had. Again, Kendall can probably talk more about exactly what he's doing here or the kinds of drums and gear he's using. Again, we have Joe Calderone on bass, who is just giving us nastiness. Sounds a little ridiculous out of context, actually. Then you've got quad track guitars. I think I borrowed Harry's 8-string for this. A lot of this might just be Gojira. Yeah. Heaviest plugin in the universe. In terms of synths, I have a couple of things helping with sort of that low bass end, and then just some like arpeggiated fluff. I don't know. It all just kind of comes together in a huge way. And then we have this sort of like higher octave thing. And that's the main riff of the song. I mean, pretty like meat and potatoes.
Meat and potatoes.
Now the very intro was those main guitars piped through the microcosm on the glitch setting. And I talked about this pedal in my Airborne unpacking, but real briefly, the microcosm is just this crazy ambient pedal that whatever you put into it, it just gives you back chopped up versions of what you gave it, but always in like a really musical way. Yeah, it's just cool.
Moving right along.
So this section is pretty cool. The bass line obviously really stands out. I was listening to a lot of Rage Against the Machine at the time, and so I was like, let's just make a cool, just like bass line that is just constantly going, that like would just be like such a cool like Rage Against the Machine thing or Audio Slave. Like I want to hear Chris Cornell singing over this in my head. So we're just kind of like staying on this bass line. The drums are kind of fancy, and then we have this clean guitar, which has once again been piped through the microcosm, giving this like insane ambient like pitch shifting effect. Man, I love that pedal. It does so much of my work for me. So this stays largely the same until we get to the sort of lead line in the verse. Fun little trivia fact, this little line, that's my friend Tyler Such. He was selling me one of his guitars, which I've been wanting for years, and he finally did it. And before we made the transaction, I made him sit down and record that line. Now he's immortalized in this song, so I've captured your soul, Tyler. And now here we are, in hell. Moving on. I mean, what's not to love about that? We made the conscious decision not to go crazy with it. If it was any busier than that, it wouldn't work. Again, it's like Rage Against the Machine. Like, anytime we get to this part, I'm always like, yeah, no wonder why this song wrote itself. It wanted to be this. In the studio, Kendall changes up the drum pattern here. And originally the guitar was just straight up repeating the same da-now, da-now, ba-now. But when I was tracking guitars, because we track guitars after drums, I changed it to match what he's playing on the drums a bit more closely. And it's just a nice little change of pace. Even though it's not a very long section, by this time, your ear is already kind of a little tired of hearing those same two notes. Now this section I always think of as like, the sun is now peering out from behind the clouds. Like, it's not beating you over the head with anything, and then immediately we shift right into beating you over the head. Would you believe it if I told you that there's no editing to this at all? It's only just a real performance that I only ever did once and didn't ever tweak in the slightest. I set out to rip off Steven Taranto, and I am not proud, but also I am, because I think it sounds cool. Sorry, Steven. So going into this section, for the longest time, there was nothing here. It was just a bunch of like Foo Fighters-esque, like da 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 da. And the idea was always to put like a guest solo in here. And you know, I talked to a few people. A couple things fell through. You know, I was running up against deadlines, and I was like, man, what do I put here? Do I do a solo? So for a minute, me and Harry were gonna do like alternating solos, and it was gonna be a whole like Coheed and Cambria thing. And then I was like, well, you know, maybe this is just a good opportunity to throw it back to that melody from the verse. So I brought back the verse melody, but just kind of punched it up a little bit. And I think it works really well here. You can think of it as a solo, you can think of it as a reharmonized verse. Ultimately, I think this was the right call. Oh man, I think I still have, here, let me mute these. I think I still have a bunch of solo stuff. Oh geez, I don't know what this is even gonna be. Yeah, so that was what it was gonna be. And then I was like, maybe just a lead line is fine. Ultimately, I think I made the right call. Your opinion may differ, but you know, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to perpetuate myself as like some crazy shredder. I'm more interested in creating compositions that feel cohesive with themselves. So we'll do a crazy solo next time. We did get our nice moment from Harry though. Harry came over to prepare for the Kinglet live playthroughs, and even though I nixed the like dueling solo section, he had this like random arpeggiated kind of part that he came up with, just sort of, you know, messing around with the song, and I was like, well, screw it, let's put it in. And I think it's just this nice pinnacle moment, especially after that little break for Joe, that I feel like adds to the song in a really nice way, and is a great little feature for Harry. What can I say? Heavy. I don't usually fancy myself a metal player, but sometimes you just kind of have to go for it. And in my mind, this song kind of just broadens the spectrum for what Kinglet sound can be. And I have interest in pushing it even farther in both directions. Like, you know, will this be the last really heavy Kinglet song? Certainly not. But I also want to have, you know, really kind of glistening acoustic explorations and folky instruments and things like that. So, you know, in the future, there will be more of this, but for the moment, this was kind of a, you know, screw it, let's just go for it. If we're gonna make it, let's make it, kind of thing. And I'm happy with how it turned out. It's a really fun song to play. It's definitely called Blister for a reason, mostly for Kendall. That guy had to really bust his chops to be able to play this, and this is definitely Kendall's song on the EP, for sure. So I think that about does it for Blister. Thanks so much for watching. If this kind of stuff is interesting to you, let me know. I'm happy to do more of it. If you have any specific questions, reach out to me directly, either in the comments or on Instagram. I'll put all my information below. Thanks for hanging around and listening to the music, and catch you around soon.